Mr. President, I rise today to speak about rural communities like my hometown of Clare, Michigan. It was a great place to grow up. My dad and my grandpa ran the local Oldsmobile dealership on Main Street, and my mom was director of nursing at the local hospital. And my relatives were dairy farmers. And I saw how hard they worked every single day, rarely taking a day off. In fact, on Thanksgiving or Christmas, they were not there most of the time. They had to run back milk the cows. So I so appreciated how hard they worked. I had many jobs growing up, but my first real job was at the local dairy fill, where I learned the art of filling a cone with soft serve ice cream. It wasn't a big town, it still isn't. But there was a real sense of community there. People shopped at local businesses, attended local events, cheered for the local high school sports teams, and rallied around local families when they needed help. Places like Clare still exist, of course. In fact, in August, I was there to celebrate the dairy fill's 70th anniversary. But small towns and rural communities have seen a lot of changes over the years, and not all of them have been good. When I graduated from high school in 1968, about 1 in 4 people lived in rural communities. Today, only 1 in 7 call rural America home. There are fewer people and a lot fewer farms. Among other things, trade wars started by the Trump administration helped fuel this consolidation, causing dramatic drops in crop prices and billions in ad hoc, inequitable federal trade assistance payments. As people have left and as our economy has changed, many small town main streets have a lot more empty storefronts. Other towns have lost their schools, and more than 190 rural hospitals have closed since 2005. Our small towns and rural communities are under a lot of pressure, and that's something that we all should care about. These communities are important. They're a crucial part of the fabric of our nation, and I'm so proud of the investments we've made over the last few years to strengthen that fabric. We invested in healthcare and rural hospitals during the pandemic. In the American Rescue Plan, we invested in telehealth to bring healthcare providers to people where they were when they needed healthcare. In fact, telehealth visits by people in rural areas skyrocketed from 9,000 visits in 2019 to more than 830,000 visits in 2020. And we invested in keeping critical rural hospitals open, like where my mom worked as a nurse. We also know that healthcare above the neck is as important as healthcare below the neck. Farmers and ranchers have always been a stoic group, more likely to tough it out than to talk about it. That can make anxiety and depression and other mental health issues worse. In fact, farming is one of the occupations with the highest risk for suicide today. We took big steps toward getting folks the help they needed by investing in our bipartisan certified community behavioral health clinics. I so appreciate the President's support in that. There are now more than 500 of these clinics operating across the country, many of them in rural communities. It's the largest investment in behavioral health care in our nation's history. Our rural communities have also been pummeled by the climate that's changing right before their eyes. Last year, our country saw 18 separate billion-dollar disasters, 18, costing 474 Americans their lives and over $175 billion in damages. This year, we've already seen 24 separate billion-dollar disasters so far. But it doesn't take a billion-dollar disaster to destroy a family farm. Think about the cherry farmer who loses an entire crop when warm weather causes the trees to bloom early, only be wiped out in a cold snap a few weeks later. Or a wheat farmer whose hard work is leveled when a violent summer storm pummels her fields with hail. Or a family that has to slaughter their entire population of turkeys when their farm is struck by avian flu. Farming has always been a tough way to make a living. With the climate crisis, it's getting even tougher. That's why it was so important that we invested almost $20 billion in new funding for voluntary conservation programs to support our farmers and ranchers as they work to mitigate their risks from violent, unpredictable weather events, and as they lead in our country's efforts to tackle the climate crisis. During the COVID-19 pandemic, we also learned how important high-speed internet is. All of a sudden, the lack of good internet connection meant our kids couldn't make it to class. Maybe they would sit in the parking lot of a fast food restaurant to try to get Wi-Fi. And folks couldn't see a doctor. It proved the point that I've been making for years, that high-speed internet is infrastructure, and I'm so proud we came together in a bipartisan way to address this. In our bipartisan infrastructure law, we invested $65 billion to help ensure that all Americans, whether they live in a big city or 30 miles from the closest highway, have access to high-speed internet. We also remember how hard it was to get basic food staples when supply chains broke down in the pandemic. It was even harder in small towns and rural communities, and that's why we invested in strengthening food supply chains that build connections between local farmers, communities, and businesses. Small and regional processing operations also bring jobs back into the community instead of shipping them off to large, consolidated centers hundreds of miles away. Our food system should be at the heart of our communities. And this is about how we get local products from local farmers and producers onto local tables. It's also important to note that when we invest in rural America, we aren't just investing in families who live there. It's important to do, of course, but we're investing in all of us, because each and every one of us depends on our farmers and local communities. Why am I saying all of this? First of all, we have multiple needs in small towns and rural communities. And we have spent the last 2.5 years, and I want to thank the Biden administration for investing in so many ways to support our small towns and rural communities. And they need it. They need our support. But right now we have the opportunity and responsibility to come together to build on those investments, those things that relate to quality of life and economic opportunity. And that's called, Mr. President, the Farm Bill. The Farm Bill is our next opportunity to truly revitalize rural America. I'm committed to passing a strong, bipartisan farm bill as soon as possible. This is actually the 6th one, Mr. President, that I've been involved in. The 6th farm bill since coming to Congress. The 3rd one that I have been leading. You know, our committee is unique. We don't just sit at a raised dais facing witnesses. Instead, we sit around a table, much like families do after a long day of work, and we face each other. That is part of our bipartisan tradition, and to get a farm bill done, it needs to be bipartisan. It must hold together the broad coalition of support that's been the cornerstone of this process for decades. Since Ranking Member Bozeman and I started working on a bipartisan farm bill in April of 2022, the Senate Agriculture, Nutrition, and Forestry Committee and its subcommittees have held more than 20 hearings. There's also been countless Farm Bill listening sessions around the country. And I appreciate so much the community input and the bipartisan work of our committee members. The success of a Farm Bill is always based on finding bipartisan solutions to the problems we need to address and bipartisan ways to address funding priorities. In this Farm Bill, that means protecting our critically needed conservation funding for our farmers. It means keeping nutrition funding in the nutrition title for our families. Having said that, I'm committed to finding ways to bring additional resources to meet other needs in the Farm Bill that are so important to producers. I am very grateful that Leader Schumer is committed to find several $billions in additional resources through bipartisan offsets outside the Farm Bill to help us achieve that goal. And I have to tell you, it's almost unheard of because I remember not that long ago when the Senate leadership was telling us to cut $23 billion from the Farm Bill. So I'm grateful for this unified commitment to get this done. There's a lot of people counting on us to get this done. More than 21 million Americans depend on the food and agriculture industry for their jobs. In Michigan, Mr. President, that's 1 out of 4 people that are in agriculture, the food economy. And another 4.6 million Americans work in the growing bio-based manufacturing industry that I think is so exciting. But the Farm Bill isn't just about jobs. It isn't just about our economy. The Farm Bill has 3 goals in my mind. We want to keep farmers farming. We want to keep families fed. And we want to keep rural communities strong and build on the investments that we've done in the last 2.5 years. The Farm Bill is the foundation of the farm safety net. During our oversight hearings this year, every single group representing farmers told us that protecting and strengthening crop insurance was their #1 priority. And they asked for more options to make it affordable. And I support that request. Crop insurance covers over 130 different crops, large and small, and is continuing to expand to more crops and regions. Coming from Michigan, where we grow more than 300 different crops, I'm proud that I have been known as the specialty crop champion. During my time in the Senate, I've led the effort to expand crop insurance protections, especially for my state's fruit and vegetable growers. And I'm continuing to work on ways to expand crop insurance for specialty crops and other crops. Time and time again, from small producers in Michigan to national groups like the American Farm Bureau, we all hear from farmers across the country that we must protect and enhance crop insurance. I agree. It's the #1 risk management tool for farmers. It can be tailored and evolved to meet the individual needs of farmers, and most importantly, farmers will see the benefits of any changes that we make to crop insurance immediately. Any changes we make to reference prices in the commodity title, for instance, will not have any impact until the fall of 2025 at the earliest. This is why I'm currently exploring a proposal that would make crop insurance premiums more affordable on area-based crop insurance plans. No mandates, just new options to support our producers. The agricultural risk coverage and price loss coverage programs are very important to many of our farmers as well. And we built a solid base on improving those programs in the 2018 Farm Bill. And there's good news here. In 2022, farmers recorded the highest farm income in history. In 2023, it's projected to be the 7th highest in the last 21 years. But we know that farmers have also experienced a lot of challenges. and that not everyone has benefited from the recent high prices. And we know input costs are high. And though the costs of diesel fuel and fertilizer are declining, we need to ensure farmers have effective tools to address their costs so they can keep farming. Fortunately, USDA is using its authority to help farmers long-term by supporting the development of lower-cost, American-made fertilizer and implementing innovative fertilizer technologies. This will create more jobs, provide more choices for farmers, and make us less reliant on foreign supplies of fertilizer. In many ways, the Farm Bill already helps farmers address higher input costs. The dairy safety net is structured around the difference between the cost of feed and the price of milk. Crop insurance can also expand and adjust to provide similar policies for a broad group of farmers. And there's other good news. In the 2018 Farm Bill, we were able to improve the PLC program by including what was called an escalator provision that's projected to increase reference prices for most commodities. There are 20 commodities in the commodity title, and most will see a 10 to 15% increase by the 2025 crop year under existing law without any changes. So because of this escalator, we're going to see reference prices for many commodities increase by 10 to 15% by 2025. I can't claim credit for this provision. It was a bipartisan idea, actually championed by the former House Republican chairman, Mike Conaway of Texas. But I know it's important to find other ways to improve ARC and PLC for the 22 crops that benefit from the program as well. As we do, it's important to find the best ways to help all of our farmers, both beginning farmers who are crucial for our future, as well as medium and large established operations. But we can't lose sight of the fact that the farm safety net extends far beyond Title I, the commodity title, Title 11, the crop insurance title. The farm does not need to be put back into the Farm Bill. It's on every page. The farm safety net is support for research. It's access to affordable credit and loans. It's specialty crop block grants and dairy and sugar programs and disaster assistance and trade. It's protecting the health of our livestock. And it's voluntary conservation programs. I strongly believe, and I know I have colleagues on both sides of the aisle who agree that conservation programs are a vital part of risk management for our farmers today. As I said earlier, you don't need to explain to a farmer what the climate crisis is. They see it in their orchards and their pastures and their fields every day. Farmers want to make their operations more resilient in the face of the climate crisis. They want to build healthier soil by keeping carbon in the ground. That's why we're seeing record demand for popular voluntary conservation programs that we have passed. And the good news is we now have more funding to meet their needs. The farm safety net is also about building markets, and we received some great news on that front this week. This week, Secretary Vilsack announced $2.3 billion in investments from the Commodity Credit Corporation to invest in trade promotion, markets. That's what our farmers are saying. Top two things, crop insurance and markets. They want to be able to trade. So Secretary Vilsack has announced $2.3 billion to invest in trade promotion and important in-kind international food assistance. So critical. This will support American farmers and help people in need around the world. I very much appreciate Secretary Vilsack. I appreciate his responding to my request. The request I sent in was Senator Bozeman. I very much appreciate that he responded and said yes to what Senator Bozeman and I had asked. Secretary Vilsack's continued commitment to meet the needs of our agricultural community, as well as his partnership with us to get a bipartisan farm bill done, is so important. This new CCC funding doubles the amount available for trade promotion for the next 5 years. We've never seen that, and we're able to do that now. It also creates an opportunity to spread the money out more evenly over 10 years, and this would allow us to grow permanent baseline funding for trade promotion programs in this farm bill and every subsequent farm bill, something that has not happened since 2006. Our farmers are looking to sell their products across the ocean, but they're also looking to sell their products across the country, across the state, across the street. When our growers can get their apples on lunch trays at the local elementary school or sell tomatoes to their neighbors at the Saturday morning farmers market, that puts money in their pockets and keeps our local economy going. Farm Bill trade promotion programs, international food assistance, bioeconomy programs, local food programs, all of these increase market opportunities for our nation's farmers to be successful. And we all want farmers to be successful, not just those who are already doing well, but those who are new or who are struggling. That's why I'm laser focused on ensuring that the Farm Bill includes targeted support for beginning farmers, for our organic farmers, for our BIPOC farmers and urban growers. While the Farm Bill is the backbone of the farm safety net, its nutrition programs are the backbone of the family safety net. So we want to make sure that we keep farmers farming, but we want to make sure we keep families fed as well. I believe that no parent should have to worry about whether or not their child is going to be able to eat. And no American senior should have to go hungry because their food budget simply won't stretch far enough. It would be unconscionable to further cut the modest assistance of $6 a day that helps millions of Americans put food on the table and make ends meet. I also reject the premise that we must choose between supporting farmers and supporting families. The needs of farmers and families are interconnected. Farmers benefit when families can afford to buy the food they produce. And the economy benefits as well. In fact, every dollar in SNAP, every dollar in the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program generates $1.50 in economic activity. Someone's buying food. They're going to the grocery store. It's the farmers, the transportation, it's the grocery store. It's one of the quickest ways to create economic opportunity. Just like the farm safety net, these nutrition programs expand during times of need and contract during times of plenty. We've already seen participation in SNAP decline as the country continues to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic, just like the program's designed to do. Nutrition assistance is also much more than SNAP. It's what we call Double Up Bucks, which started in Michigan. The idea of being able to support families to go to the local farmers market and buy fresh fruits and vegetables that are more expensive by giving double the value of their SNAP dollar. And this has been so successful that we are now expanding it to grocery stores, and it's widely successful across the country. This is also about the wonderful work of our local food banks. It's getting fresh local foods to children in school. It's ensuring that those same children aren't going hungry during the summer or when school isn't in session. I'm extremely proud that in December, Senator Boozman and I led the successful effort to establish the first permanent investment in child nutrition in over a decade, which will provide summer meals to 29 million children. 29 million children every summer. And is providing support for farmers markets, which strengthen connections between growers and the communities they feed. So, our goal, keep farmers farming, keep families fed, and then finally, keep rural communities strong. A strong farm safety net and a strong family safety net build strong small towns. Every American, no matter where they live, deserves a great quality of life and the chance to be successful. And that's why we have put money into high-speed internet. That's why we have supported rural hospitals. That's why we have supported telehealth. That's why in the last 2.5 years, we have invested in rural communities. The truth is, we need strong small towns. We need thriving rural communities. We need young folks to go off to college and want to come home, work on the farm, start a small business, and raise their family in a community where they grew up. We need small towns to have strong schools and quality health care, high-speed internet, and vibrant main streets. And we need the dairy fill in Clare, like where I worked, to teach young people the art of creating the perfect soft-serve ice cream cone, and so many other life's lessons. We need them to do that for another 70 years. Madam President, getting the Farm Bill done won't be easy. It never is. But I am committed to doing so. Unfortunately, it looks like this is going to take a little longer than I would like. But it would be irresponsible to allow vital programs in the farm safety net to lapse and revert to Depression-era policy in January. We can't allow that to happen. And given the chaos in the House, I know we will need an extension. But let's be clear. It would be equally irresponsible to take our focus off of a 5-year farm bill that provides stability and certainty for our farmers and communities. I'm laser focused on delivering a bipartisan farm bill that keeps farmers farming, families fed, and rural communities strong, and getting it done in the coming months. It's critical that we give rural America and agriculture the certainty of a 5-year farm bill. The unifying principle behind the Farm Bill is that it's a safety net for farmers and families. When crops fail, or when disaster strikes, the farm safety net steps in to provide stability and security. When a pandemic hits, or the economy takes a turn for the worse, it's the family safety net that steps in. The Farm Bill is designed to, and it must, support both. Senator Boozman and I have a strong working relationship, and we have already accomplished so much together. I know that we can come together with colleagues on both sides of the aisle and agree on a bipartisan farm bill that addresses the important needs of agriculture and rural America. Together, and with the bedrock support of the broad Farm Bill coalition, everyone from farmers to climate to nutrition advocates, we can get this done. Communities, farmers, and families are counting on us.